Okay, so not a ton today, but I think these were, I know that we did A already, so you already have this, but I just want to go through it again. So hopefully you took this down in your notes, but I'm just going to go through it again. When we are dealing with absolute values, we are always going to be breaking them down into two equations, and always, 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 your first goal is to get this area all by itself. So before we do anything, we're going to look around and make sure that there's nothing being multiplied, divided, added or subtracted to this, because this is like our sacred fortress area. We just want to make sure that this is by itself first. Is there anything that I need to move away from this x minus 3, the absolute value of x minus 3? No, so it's safe. So I'm going to break it down into two equations. Help me out with what those two equations are.
X minus 3 equals 2.
Okay, x minus 3 is equal to 2. And the other equation?
X minus 3 is equal to negative 2.
Good. X minus 3 is equal to negative 2. Two equations. The first one looks just like it is up there, and the second one changes this to the opposite. If it was 2, it becomes negative 2. So really what we need to do here is solve both equations. There was nothing to do ahead of time. We didn't need to move anything over to the other side. So what we did yesterday was we added 3 to both sides. We got x was equal to 5. That was one of the answers. Remember, expect with absolute values that you are giving two answers. The only situation where we don't have two answers is maybe there's like a no solution situation. Maybe there is an all real number situation. What's that? 0. Well, if you get 0, you're only going to end up with one answer, because it just means that you're going to have two equations that are exactly the same. If this number over here was a 0, and in the beginning we're not going to have much more, so we get x is equal to 1, our two answers there. That's where we left off. We had done those two, and we're going to do those two more of those. So we had yesterday's lesson, two more problems. I'm not adding on any new content, but this is the last lesson that you need to worry about. So you've got what's on the quiz. I'll get those back to you on Monday, and then you've got this material too. And you even have the study guide, and that's going to be our goal for today. All right. So somebody help me out. Talk me through this one. Yes, sir.
You rewrite the equation as it is.
Okay, so first we need to just check real quick and to make sure that this is by itself. Is it by itself?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to do exactly what you said. Talk to me.
Rewrite the equation as it is on top.
Okay, so just as it is right there, y plus 2 is less than or equal to 3.
And then you make another equation. It's y plus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 3.
Good. Notice that this 3 has become a negative 3, so he knew to flip this sign.
And then you go to the first equation.
Okay.
Subtract 2 from both sides. And that's your answer for that one. And then you do the same thing and then subtract 2 from both sides.
Okay, so you might have to graph these, and if you have to graph them, let's just see what this would look like. All right, so let's graph this one first. Y is less than or equal to 1. Here's 1. The values where y is less than or equal to 1 are over here. But also, y has to be greater than or equal to negative 5. Here's negative 5. Here are the values that are greater than or equal to.
Has to be a closed circle.
What's that?
Has to be a closed circle.
Oh, yes, thank you, thank you. So, how do I identify where the answer is in this graph now?
In between the two dots.
Yeah, we got that overlap there in between the two dots. So we're really looking at this area right here. When there's an overlap, we're looking at that overlap area there. So we're actually not including that blue line to the right of the red dot. Like this part over here is not included in the answer. All of the red stuff to the right of where I shaded, all of that would not be included. The only area that's included right now is this part right there, from here to there. All right, let's do one more. Talk to me.
5 minus 2t is greater than 3.
5 minus 2t is greater than 3.
And 5 minus 2t is less than negative 3.
Perfect. It's less than negative 3. The 3 became a negative 3, so this had to flip as well. That's why those two things happen. So notice the first equation is, the first inequality is basically the same. This changed, and that's always going to happen when we make our two equations. All right. What's my first step here?
Subtract 5.
Subtract 5. Remember, don't do your multiplication or division first. We get negative 2t is greater than negative 2.
You divide by 2.
So you could also divide by another number. Negative 2. I'm being a little bit nitpicky there, but we're going to have to divide by a negative eventually anyway. So what am I going to write?
T is less than 1.
T is less than 1. This symbol flipped there because I divided by a negative number. So t is less than 1. That is part of my answer. Now let's go over here. On the right-hand side, what am I going to do? Subtract 5. Subtract 5. And we get negative 2t is less than negative 8. From there?
Subtract by negative 2. I mean divide.
Divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. T is greater than. We divided by a negative 2. So t is greater than what? Which number? I'm sorry?
4.
4. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So again, I'm going to graph this in two parts. 0. Oh, let me do this. Let me label it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So the first one says that t is less than 1. So here is less than 1. Or t is greater than 4. So this is an or type thing, that it could be any of the numbers on the left or any of the numbers on the right, because this is not an overlap. So any of the numbers that are in the red will work, or any of the numbers in the right will work, because there's no overlap in this situation. If there's an overlap, it's only the overlap area. If there's not an overlap, it's both areas.
So on the test, we wouldn't have to shade anything for
This would be it. If this were the problem on the test, this would be the total thing.